Good morning. Good morning. Happy Wednesday. Happy Wellness Wednesday. I'm running just a couple of minutes late. I'm sorry for that. I'm just excited to be here. Wednesday is a great day in my world. And I love doing Wellness Wednesday. It's, if you are just stumbling on my page, my name is Donna. I am a mom. I am a nana. I'm a girlfriend. I am an activewear fanatic, a runner, studying to be a personal trainer, enrolling in grad school for mental health counseling, all the things. There's lots going on, and I am very grateful, and that's what we're going to talk about today. So if you're new to this, I started Wellness Wednesday because I have been in a lifelong battle with anxiety and depression, and I know that one of the biggest things that has helped me is sharing with others and having others share with me about tips and things that they've done to feel more well in general. Good morning, Denise. Nice to see you. So that is why I started this, so that we could get on and we could share with each other some things that really help us to feel more well, because what works for one person may not work for somebody else, or what works for you may work for somebody else, and it's just not something they've thought to try yet, or maybe they've heard of it and they've thought about it, but they just haven't pulled that trigger to try it yet. So this is a great forum. Very thankful for technology for giving us the ability to do things like this and talk to each other, even when we're not in the same room. So in my number 7 Wellness Wednesday episode, and it's crazy that this is 36, and I talked about this in number 7. So I'm very excited about that. And I forgot to mention, if you're here, let me know you're here. And if you ask a question or you make a statement and I don't say anything, it's because Facebook doesn't always show me all of the things. So it's just because I didn't see it. And if that's the case, then I will answer or respond after I'm done. Okay, so 36 episode right now, but in my 7th Wellness Wednesday episode, which was right before Thanksgiving, I talked about where to find gratitude and why. I also issued a gratitude challenge for the new year. So it's been about 6 months, and since this was right before Thanksgiving, and everybody has a tendency to be more grateful in right around Thanksgiving and Christmas, I thought that mid-year was a good time to kind of do a mid-year check, talk about this a little bit more, kind of check our temperatures. Good morning, Miss Erica. Nice to see you. And reissue the challenge again if I need to. Some of you may have seen the short video that I did a couple days ago of mid-year check on the gratitude challenge, but we're going to dig in just a little bit more than we did last time. Last time we talked about how gratitude can help with pain, how it can help with health, building healthy habits and better sleep, how it can change your perspective, about finding the tiny things to be grateful for, like the silver linings, and that if you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. We also talked a little bit about journaling, so I'm going to talk about that a little bit more, but I'm going to get just a little bit more into it. This is something we could go on and on and on about for days. Good morning, Danielle. So if you want to go back to the last one, you can go to my videos. And it was in November, and it was, I think, 2 weeks before Christmas. And I number all of my episodes so that you can find them easily if I make a reference to one. So this started with episode 7. And we're going to continue and, just like I said, kind of do a mid-year temperature check today. So how can we expand on these? Well, mentalhealthfirstaid.org states that according to studies, a single act of thoughtful gratitude, good morning, Miss Carla, produces an immediate 10% increase in happiness. Isn't that crazy? And I believe that's true just based on my own experiences. I find that over time, as I have focused on being grateful and focused on good things instead of negative things, and believe me, I used to be a very negative person. You didn't always see it. I was very good at kind of hiding it, but the monologue in my head was always negative. Why is this happening to me? What bad thing's going to happen next? What fresh hell awaits me today? Those types of things. That was always a constant spin in my head. And I found that as I became more grateful and started focusing more on the good things that were happening to me, that it kind of perpetuated. And it was a major player in helping me to kind of reset that negative thought process that I had lived with most of my entire life. So a 10% increase in happiness, I have seen. In fact, yesterday when I was setting up my notes for this Wellness Wednesday, I had to go back to my previous one and kind of review what I said so that I didn't repeat myself too much, just enough to make it stick. And there were things I said in that Wellness Wednesday video that kind of changed the way I was thinking about something that was going on in my own world. So even going back to something I did previously, kind of it was one of those situations, if you've ever had it, where you just kind of get a little bit of a smile and you're like, okay, God, I know that's you trying to send me a message, or whatever your beliefs are. It was just one of those situations where I'm like, okay, all right, back to basics, Donna. So in any case, a 10% increase in happiness. Good morning, Kathy. And a 35% reduction in depressive symptoms for one mindful moment of gratitude. That is crazy. It's crazy good. And this is why it's important to practice gratitude over and over and over again. And why, I'm going to take every opportunity I can to hammer it into you and to me, because we have to keep perpetuating that. We can keep perpetuating. Yes, I love that, Carla. We have to keep perpetuating that gratitude and those feelings that happen when we are that way. So for my fellow geeks, just a couple little details from positivepsychology.com. Gratitude fosters cognitive restructuring by evoking positive thinking. Now, y'all have heard me say before about our brains being plastic. I am walking, talking proof that the more you focus on positive thinking, the more ability you have basically to rewire your brain and reframe the way things come out of it, basically. It also wires and fires new neural connections to the Bliss Center. Now, I've been out of school a few years, not even going to claim to know what the Bliss Center is. I know it's a newer concept, but neural connections, yes. That's what that means by our brains being plastic, is as we learn new things and take on new challenges and again, change kind of try to change our thinking and try to look at things more positively, those neural connections change. Some of them can heal. There's a lot that can go on in that brain that we just don't even know about yet. It enhances dopamine and serotonin, which are the neurotransmitters responsible for happiness. So being more grateful has the ability to rewire that and increase the flood of dopamine and serotonin that some people need medication or unfortunately self-medicate to attain. And it reduces fear and anxiety by regulating stress hormones. Stress hormones are a big deal. Hormones in general are a big deal. I'm not going to go too far into that because y'all know I do not like to be political. So we're going to stay away from the political. But hormones, I did an entire research paper on hormones when I was in college. And I have learned from personal experience and that research as well. Hormones are very powerful. They are not something to mess with in a bad way. And stress hormones, especially as you go through menopause and after menopause, can really become problematic in both a physical and mental health manner. So that's for my fellow geeks. Just a little bit of information from positivepsychology.com about how gratitude works in the brain. So how can we find more of it? Well, one of the things that frequently is associated with depression is rumination. Rumination meaning that you're going back and you're reliving past events and rehashing what you did or what somebody else did or what you did wrong and beating yourself up over it. As a general rule, the concept is that depression is rumination about past events that you can't change. And anxiety is created by excessive worry about the future that you also have no control over. And it's fine to worry a little bit about the future or plan for the future, but when it becomes more of I don't want to use the word obsession because that's pushing it into another area too, but when it becomes more of a constant worry, when for example, when I was struggling a lot of times I would be looking into the future and not just planning, but trying to map out exactly what everyone was going to say and do in response to whatever I was going to say and do, to the point where it was borderline obsessive, trying to control the future, which was way, way, way beyond my control. Listen, some days I'm lucky I can control myself in that moment. And so are most of us, right? So reframing past events, if you're experiencing a lot of rumination and you're experiencing a lot of focusing on the past or comparing things that are happening now to the past, and that's why it's going to go south or it's going to go bad or it's not going to go right, or comparing people in your life now to people in the past, a lot of that rumination can be reframed if you start looking at it from more of a present, current time, where's the words? More of a current time perspective, meaning, instead of everything you did wrong during that time or everything that went wrong during that time or that event, what are the lessons that you learned from it? What about that event made you better today? Where if you were to encounter something like that again today, you would handle it differently or better. What kind of positive results came out of that event or that situation that made you better today, that propelled you forward into a future where you can respond to negative situations differently? That's what I mean by finding gratitude. I talked a little bit about silver linings and looking for the helpers. And I told my story about being stuck on the turnpike in the middle of the night with a flat tire and the things I learned from it. And that's kind of what I'm talking about. Carla. Yes, it's okay. I used to live, Carla, by the adage that you prepare for the worst and expect the best. And sometimes that's fine. But if you have a tendency towards anxiety and depression and negative thinking, mostly you just focus on what the worst case scenario is. And worrying is fine to a degree if it helps you prepare properly for a situation like a hurricane. But a lot of times we just can't prepare for the things that are coming because we don't know what they're going to look like. So we can focus on what we can do now to control those things. No, not to control those things because we can't. We can focus on what we can do now on the things that we can control. Hurricane's a great example because it's an anomaly that everybody worries about. Well, most people worry about to some degree, but is totally out of our control. And we live you and I live in a hurricane plagued state. Other people deal with snowstorms and tornadoes. We can focus on being as prepared as we can right now if something happens, having the right canned goods, having the right emergency supplies, having the right amount of water. We can focus on doing those things. One of the things that Eric and I will do is instead of going, waiting till the last minute and rushing to the store when something's coming, Eric went this weekend and filled up our extra gas cans that we use for mowing and things like that. Each time we go grocery shopping, we'll start picking up a little bit more canned goods, maybe an extra case of water, so that we're not buying it all at once and possibly making it difficult for somebody else that needs it to find it. Little extra toilet paper here and there throughout hurricane season. And then once hurricane season is over, we'll start kind of weeding through those products a little bit at a time so that we're using them up and refreshing them. That's the kind of thing I'm talking about. So, but in this case, we're talking about reframing past events. And instead of ruminating on them and thinking about all the things you did wrong and all the things you should have done differently, look at them and think about how they've taught you, what they've taught you, how they've made you better, what you learned from those situations. In the case of anxiety, how can you find more gratitude? in that situation that you and I were just talking about, Carla, which again is focusing on the current situation. I am thankful that I have the ability to add a little something each time I go grocery shopping so that I don't feel the financial burden of having to suddenly prepare for a hurricane at the last minute. I don't feel that extra stress. I can stay home. I can prepare the house. If something comes, I can help out my neighbor because I'm not busy standing in line at the grocery store fighting over water, right? So those are ways that you can kind of reframe that. And it allows you to kind of hone in on what is in your control that you can focus on to keep from getting a little bit too far off in either direction. Gratitude is like a muscle that you can build. How it changed my thinking and it's amazing to me because in the process of building this muscle, if you will, I have found that a lot of times when I'm in a negative situation, even if I'm feeling that return of the negativity and the raise in anxiety, I can actually still see in situations where things are happening that I know are going to benefit me or somebody else going forward. Now, again, depending on your beliefs, and you all, for the most part, know that I'm very much a woman of faith. I very much believe in God. I am grateful to have reached a point where I've gone from hindsight, and I still have some hindsight where I can be like, oh, that was an ugly situation, but look at what came out of it. This happened to this person, and this happened to this person, and this happened to me. Now I've reached a point where I can start to see that while it's happening. I can be like, okay, this is happening and it's uncomfortable, but there's a reason for this. I can see where this could turn into something that could benefit several people around me. And I do believe that God works that way. I don't believe he does anything to benefit just one of us, that he does things or allows things, uses things to benefit multiple people at one time. So it is like a muscle, and the more you practice it, the stronger it's going to get. It's not an overnight change, although sometimes you may feel immediate effects of that gratitude, like that 10% increase in happiness or 35% reduction in depression symptoms. So if you're anything like me, there were some foods I eat now that I used to just kind of stay away from, right? But the more I learned about how good they were for me, and then when I tried them and how good I felt after I ate them, Brussels sprouts, I'm just going to throw that out there. I started to look at Brussels sprouts differently and try to find new ways to cook them so I could eat them more. Eric and I literally ate our way through Orlando on Brussels sprouts one weekend. So that's the kind of thing I'm talking about. The more you do it, the more you tend to gravitate to it, and it truly becomes easier over time. And then start looking for those things, those silver linings, those lessons, those helpers, if you will, so that as you're looking around and as you're experiencing a painful situation, you can start seeing where it's already got potential to benefit you or somebody else that's sharing that situation with you. Another way to find gratitude is to celebrate small victories. Now, when I talked about this in episode 7, I stayed pretty general. Here we're digging in a little bit more. Celebrating small victories that may have gone unnoticed. In my VIP group, a lot of times on Thursdays, okay, pickled might be pushing it for me, Erica, but I'm not going to say no to trying them because I believe in trying new things. Try new things. I'll keep that on my radar. Okay, so celebrating small victories that may go unnoticed. We have a tendency as humans to focus on the big stuff. Everybody's graduating right now. They're going off to college. It's wonderful. There's lots of celebration going on there. A new job, a job promotion, a retirement. Lots of people are retiring right now. Those are the things, birthdays, things like that we tend to celebrate all the time. We forget to celebrate tiny little things. Like for me, when I hurt my back a few weeks ago, I celebrated every day that I could do a yoga routine or walk on the treadmill without pain, because that meant that I was getting better. Whatever it is, if you have an addiction, if you make a decision to stop drinking, or stop drinking as much and you go a couple of days without a drink, That's a small victory that you can celebrate, that it doesn't necessarily require anybody else to notice, but you need to celebrate it. You need to celebrate it when you do something better or something bigger. That is one of the reasons that in my VIP group, when we do health challenges, we have a 2-week one going on right now. One of the biggest things in that VIP group when we're doing challenges is accountability and encouragement of others. We are celebrating small things like drinking all your water for the day. We are celebrating small things like getting a minimum number of steps for the day. It makes us feel better to be like, look, hey, look what I did. And it makes others feel better to say, look what you did. And those seem like such small things, but when we're trying to improve our health or improve our mindset or just improve the way we get through a day, those small victories are phenomenal and they are huge. And you know the saying, celebrate the small things now, because when you look back, you'll learn that they are the big things. When my daughter and my grandson were first living with me, I was a little caught up in a little bit of wallowing there for a while. I struggled to get back into a schedule because I wasn't used to having people live with me. And I had a tendency to whine a little bit, like, I just don't know what to do. There's just too much going on in this house. I can't do this because of this, and I can't do that because of that. Then I realized over time that what I really needed to do was focus on being grateful, because God had put us in that situation where we could spend more time together and bond together. And that even though it might have been uncomfortable and maybe not convenient and maybe not exactly what I saw happening at that time in my life, it was truly a blessing. And once I started focusing more on that and less on whatever inconvenience it was for me at that given day, it became an entirely different experience. And I think that's not uncommon for us to look at situations we're in and just be like, oh, this is terrible. What's going on here? Why can't this person do that? Or why can't that person just do this? And then we miss, and oftentimes we don't notice until they're gone or until they're not as accessible to us anymore. We don't realize what a unique opportunity we had at the time. So celebrating small victories and focusing on little things that are good can make a huge difference. And when you look back on them, they can make a huge difference in how you feel about that situation when you look back on it, so that you're not ruminating, so that you can look back on it and go, hey, this was really awesome. And I'm glad that I stopped this thought process so that I could tune into it and be present, because that's exactly what happened for me. And I'm pretty sure probably all of you can think of a situation similar where you were spending unexpected time with somebody and your routine was messed up and you were maybe not so happy about that, and then realized that you had a unique opportunity there that you might have missed or could have missed if you didn't tune into the more positive side of things. So nature, another place that you can find gratitude is in nature. The stop and smell the roses adage is fantastic. And I have never been so fascinated. I don't think I've been as fascinated with nature as an adult as I am now, since I was like a kid playing in the woods in northern Michigan. I notice everything. I notice all the birds and all the differences. And I used to think my mom was just a crazy bird watcher, but now we've got a bird feeder out here. And we're like, yay, the birds found it, because we knew they found it yesterday. And in that time, I could see 4 different kinds of birds in the backyard. And there's joy to be found in looking at the sky and looking for shapes in the clouds and looking for little anomalies and rainbows and things like that. And honestly, no matter what your beliefs are, whether you believe in God, whether you believe in the universe, whatever your beliefs are, they're small birds, Erica. They're not mean, menacing birds. It's okay. We're going to do a little immersion therapy with you in the backyard is what we're going to do. Erica she's not a bird fan. She's just not. But in any case, no matter what your beliefs are, nature is rooted in there somewhere, whether you are a whether you love Mother Earth and you go more towards the earthly Wiccan type things, whether you believe in God, like I said, whether you believe in the universe, then you believe whoever that creator is, you more than likely, as somewhere in there, believe that creator is responsible for nature, for what we have here on this planet, for the flowers, for the birds. Okay, we won't talk about birds anymore. For the other little animals that we see, bunny rabbits and armadillos and all of the things. And it's okay. The best way to find gratitude is to take advantage of that and kind of immerse yourself in it. Go for a walk in the woods, sit out on your back porch and watch those things we're not going to talk about at the feeder. Watch the squirrels. Even though they're a giant pain in the butt, they've been really interesting since we put the bird feeder up. That's a story for another day. So regardless of your beliefs, nature probably plays a role. And when you stop and you look at a beautiful flower and, or you find a flower, for example, that's blooming out of pavement, that's a miracle. That's a tiny miracle. And if you start really looking at those things and appreciating those things, you can find nature to be a huge source of gratitude. Giving to others. I will never stop telling this story. I get so much joy out of paying for the person behind me in the drive-thru. It doesn't matter where I am. It doesn't matter if I'm at McDonald's or Starbucks or whatever. Sometimes I look in the rearview mirror just to kind of see what kind of a look there is on their face. Sometimes I look in my side mirror to see if they, because a lot of times when they pull up to the drive-thru behind me, they've already got their money out. So sometimes I'll look in the side mirror to see if they pay it forward, if they go ahead and give the money to the person, which tells me that they're going ahead and paying for the next person behind them. Sometimes I don't look at all. Sometimes I just pull forward and I go on about my business, but I usually do it with kind of a grin on my face. Now, there are people that will tell you that if you're paying for the person behind you in Starbucks, you're wasting your money because they probably don't need it if they're in the line at Starbucks. I will respectfully disagree until the day I die. You don't know what's going on in that car behind you. A person in the car behind you may be having a horrible, horrible day. I actually heard a story about somebody that ran across a feed and they were never really sure if it was the person behind them that they paid for in Starbucks, but somebody that was in the line at Starbucks that got their drink or their meal or whatever paid for was actually having a really bad day and contemplating suicide. And little things like that can sometimes totally change a day or a perspective. I know that when I do it for somebody else, it changes my day. If I'm in a foul mood, I might go get a McDonald's breakfast sandwich just so I can pay for the person behind me because it's selfish and it makes me feel better, right? That's selfish and it's okay. It's okay to be selfish in that way. But do not, one of the things, the biggest thing I guess I've learned is not to judge whoever's in the car behind me. I used to do that. I'd go into the drive-thru and I'd be like, there's a lot of people in that car behind me and maybe I should pay for the person behind them. But I just don't. It's whoever lands behind me. It is what it is. That's what I pay for. And it gives me such a magnificent feeling. On the rare occasion I do look in the rearview mirror and I see a big, brilliant smile or somebody waving, then I know I've made their day. And if I don't look, it's okay. I've made mine. And I've done something for somebody else. And you may never know what kind of impact you've had on them in that moment. But judging them by the kind of vehicle they're driving or the drive-thru you happen to be sitting in is not, listen, I would be thrilled no matter what drive-thru I was sitting in if that happened to me. So give to others. Find ways to give to others. And I find that I enjoy it the most when I don't talk about it, when I don't tell anybody else what I did, when I do sneaky things so that nobody knows it was me. That's the most fun for me. It's kind of like, I don't know, like playing Santa Claus. So consider giving to others. I think you'll find a tremendous amount of gratitude in small acts of random kindness. Whether that is paying for somebody in the drive-thru or leaving somebody a cute note on their desk, or, those rocks that we find that are painted around. Those are fantastic. Those always make my day if I happen to find one, and it's rare that I do. So if that's something you're into and you can paint happy messages and happy designs on rocks and leave them in places where people will find them, you may find that that is a great way to make yourself feel amazing and find gratitude. And I promise you, you may not ever know it or see it, but you are making someone else's day. And then, of course, the last thing before I wrap up, because we're getting a little long here, is ways to journal. You can journal the things you're grateful for. In fact, when I was issuing my part 2 journal gratitude challenge, I had new people comment that never saw my first one. And one of them mentioned that she's actually a friend of my mother's and kind of extended family. Well, she is extended family. She mentioned that she has some kind of an electronic book where she keeps track of her gratitudes. Some people sit down at night and write down everything they're grateful for the day before they go to bed. That is a great way to get your mindset focused on positive things before you go to bed, to kind of dump and get focused on positive things, because what you think about before you go to bed can have a tremendous effect on what happens to you in the next day, how you sleep, all of those things. But if you're not a journaler, that's okay. You can use a plain old notebook. You can use a journal. There are guided gratitude journals out there. I have one that my daughter gave me a couple of years ago for Christmas or Mother's Day or something like that. I'm not as good with the guided stuff. And then you can also do the blessings box, the gratitude and blessings box. This is the one that I talked about in my challenge that I issued. Did it at the beginning, started this right before the beginning of the year. Did have a few weeks there where I forgot about it, didn't pay attention to it. It's best to leave it where you can see it every single day. I used to leave it by my bed. Now it stays by my desk, and I'm getting better at doing it every single day. It is so much fun. Good morning, Miss Tina. It is so much fun to open these up and look at these after a year. And you know, you don't have to do a lot of writing. You can write down a simple little thing and use verbiage that's going to help you remember what it was. And when you sit down after the first of the year or at the end of the year and you start going through all these blessings or gratitudes that you wrote down, you're going to remember things that you totally forgot about. You're going to remember things that you totally forgot about. And I promise it's going to make you want to do it again. So give it a try. Find a container. Doesn't have to be pretty. It can be very basic. My first one was very basic until I realized that my first one was nowhere near big enough. This one's pushing it. It's very full. I just keep shoving paper down in it. So if you're not a journaler, this is something you can do. If you're not into the electronic recording, this is something you can do that's very simple. I got this stack of paper in a goodie bag from Enterprise Rental at some point. And so I just keep this next to the box, and it's the perfect size. I rip off the piece of paper. I write down the date and something that will tell me what it was. And it's just awesome. So I encourage you to try that. It's a fantastic way. And not just simple things like, we're not talking about the normal gratitude things like it's great to be grateful for your family. It's wonderful to be grateful for your loved one. And some days that's what you're going to write down. But look for the little things. Look for the little things. If you've had a horrible, horrible day, but one tiny good thing happened, that's what you're going to write down. Because the more you focus on finding the good things in a day, or 3 to 5 good things in a day, the better it's going to be, and the more you're going to build that gratitude muscle. So that is all. This has been a long one, you all. Thank you so much for joining me. I am very, very grateful for the fact that you are here for Wellness Wednesday, and that this is my 36th episode. So I hope you all have a fabulous day. Be well, and I will see you next week. Bye.